Every day I see a lot of questions on the message boards and the Facebook groups that I'm in regarding amp in the room feel. A lot of guys think that you cannot achieve this with your digital platform, whether it's a Kemper, a Helix, Axe-Fx, a Headrush, doesn't matter. A lot of people think that you can't achieve that anymore because in order to do that, you have to have a real amp and a real cab to get that. Well, I'm here to dispel a lot of that misinformation that's out there. And what I'm going to do is prove it to you with some audio demos. But before I do that, I'm going to discuss a few things with you, and then we'll go right into the demos. Well, first of all, for everybody that's new to the digital platforms like the Helix, the Headrush, the Kemper, and Axe-Fx and stuff like that, when those products first came out, there wasn't really a speaker cab to play them through. Most people had to just make do with what was available at the time, which is basically poly-enclosed PA speakers or monitor wedges. Well, in the last few years, there's been a lot of products that have come out in support of guitar modelers or profilers. And those are FRFR cabs. What is an FRFR cab? Well, FRFR is full range flat response. So in other words, you want a cab that's going to give you full range of frequencies, but a flat response so it doesn't color your guitar tones so much that it doesn't even sound real or authentic anymore. Now, these products are mainly Baltic birch cabs that look like guitar cabs. They don't look like your typical PA wedge or speaker anymore. So what I'm going to do is go over three main things to look for when you're picking out an FRFR option for your guitar sound so that you can achieve the amp in the room experience. The reason why I call it amp in the room experience as opposed to amp in the room feel is because it is an experience. It's not just how it feels, but it's also how it sounds. So let's go over those three things that you should look for right now, and then we'll go ahead with the demos. Number one, it has to look like a guitar cab. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking like, well, what does looks matter? Well, guitar cabs have looked the same way for many years, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, it works. They look great, and they're big square boxes with speakers in them, and there's a reason why they're designed the way they are. So, I mean, does this look like a guitar cab? No, it doesn't. So don't buy that if you're looking for the amp in the room experience. Does this look like a guitar cab? Yes. So chances are, minimally, you're on the right path. The next thing, it has to be built like a guitar cab. Does this look like it's built like a guitar cab? No. I've never seen a plastic guitar cab in my life. Does this look like it's built like a guitar cab? Yes. This is a Baltic birch enclosure. And chances are that's going to give you what you're looking for, which is the amp in the room experience. Why is that? Why is it so important that it's built that way? Okay, number one, in a plastic cab, what you have is a speaker that's screwed into the plastic that's in there, and they put a little bit of cotton behind it to kind of seal it in, and I'm sure it's built well. But here's the thing, that speaker will resonate through whatever it's attached to. It's attached to plastic, so there's going to be a completely different kind of resonance going on there, and it will affect the tone. The other thing I have to say about this is the purpose for these particular plastic PA speakers or wedges is not to be a guitar cab. It's supposed to be for a reference monitor, for a full band mix, or a PA speaker for a full band mix. It's not designed for just guitar. It's designed for a whole band. So you're not going to get the amp in the room experience with this product. I don't care if you spend $10,000 on it. It's not made for that. So it's not going to do that for you. It doesn't mean it's a bad product. It just means that it's not meant to do that. Okay, so let's talk about the way guitar cabinets are built. Well, number one, they're made out of Baltic birch. Why? Because it resonates very well. It's the best type of wood to make a cab out of. There's been many, many studies and many, many people making different alterations of that years and years ago, and they found out that Baltic birch is 100% the best way to go when it comes to cab resonance. So here's the thing, the speaker or speakers that are in that particular cab are mounted to wood, and it will resonate through that wood. and the wood is designed and shaped a certain way. Inside there's ports, there's all kinds of things going on in there that we don't see that help with the resonance that comes from that cab. So there are a lot of little specific things going on inside that box that make it sound and resonate the way it does. And you can't get that out of a PA speaker or a plastic wedge. It's just not going to happen. Also, to add to that, the cab is not screwed together on all the corners and the sides. It's actually finger jointed together and glued so that no air escapes there or any kind of resonance being lost because there's loose pieces in there. It has to be tight. Everything has to be airtight, glued together, no seams, no gaps, no nothing. And that's why they make those the way they do. So once again, there's a lot of different reasons that we don't see that make those cabs sound and feel the way that they do. And I want to thank my buddy Jamie Trevino for helping me do some research on this and informing me about these things so that I can bring this information to you guys as well. So the other thing you want to ask yourself when you're looking for an amp in the room experience is, does the product that you're using sound like a guitar cab? Now, I know that to some of you it's like, well, thanks, Captain Obvious, for bringing that up. Well, I have to, because I still see every day people putting plastic wedges on the floor, using them for their Helix or their Kemper or their X-Effects, and then a couple months later they're like, yeah, I'm just not getting the amp in the room feel anymore. And it's like, it's because it doesn't sound like a cab either. That's why those speakers are not made to sound like a guitar cab. They're made to sound like a PA speaker or a monitor. So the frequencies, the way they're built, the way they're shaped, all of that stuff matters. It's just the way it is. Now, on another note, let me say a couple things. If you're using a plastic wedge so that you can hear yourself practice or even perform on, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Do it. Do whatever you want, but if you're using that, but you're still looking for the amp in the room experience, it's not going to happen. It's just not. I don't care. Now, here's something that kind of drives me nuts when I see it. These digital platforms are not cheap. Most of them start around $1,000 and they range up to $2,500 and anywhere in between that. So why would you spend that kind of money on a digital platform that's going to give you all these great features and options and tones and all this great stuff and connect it to a cheap $300 plastic speaker? I just don't get that. Once again, if you're on a budget and you're just trying to save money and you need something to use for your own personal practice space or even your band practice, hey, more power to you, man. I get it. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you do have the means to get something better, I definitely suggest that you do. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the demos now. Now, I understand that you're not in the room with me, and it's hard for you to get a feel for the amp in the room experience unless you're here. I get that. But what I'm trying to show you is what these products look like and what they sound like, at least. And you'll probably have to take my word for how they feel in the room with me, but I can guarantee you this, you're going to hear some really good bass response coming out of these without overwhelming the highs and without sounding dull on the better cabinets. The plastic monitors, I'm telling you, they're not going to sound as good because they just don't give you all of the frequencies and all the punch and the resonance that the wooden enclosed cabinets are going to give you. Okay, so what I'm going to use is a really good EVH profile that's in my Kemper. I'm going to pump it through these 4 products, and then you get to hear the difference between them all. And there's no pre or post processing done to these sounds at all. And what I also did is I ran any monitor that had any kind of EQ settings on it, I ran it flat. The reason why I did that is because there are no EQ settings at all on the Friedman ASC 10 or ASC 12 FRFR cabs. So I just did that to keep everything even. Okay, so that was the Friedman ASC 10, which is their lightweight version of an FRFR cab. It's Baltic birch enclosed, and as you heard, it had a lot of punch, resonance, and fullness, and it sounded great, especially for a 33-pound cab. My initial thoughts with it are it sounds fantastic, and it actually does, especially for its size, give you very, very close to amp in the room feel. It has a ton of resonance and punch, and that's what I'm looking for in a cab. And it doesn't have that horrible howling sound that I hear in a lot of the plastic cabs that are out there. And it does not sound thin at all, as you heard. It's very punchy and very resonant, and I love it. Okay, so now we're going to go with the next speaker cabinet. Okay, so the things that I've noticed with this one right off the bat were it was very dull. It didn't have that nice pick attack, especially when I was doing the palm mutes. I couldn't hear the pick attack at all. It was very dull and round and kind of lifeless. Now, yes, it does have some low end and everything, and that's great, but what you're getting out of this type of enclosure and this type of speaker setup is a very boxy sound, and it's not letting the pick attack come through and some of the really nice top end of the guitar tone that I have dialed in come through at all. It's very, like I said, boxy, and it's kind of like you threw a blanket over the guitar tone. So now we're going to go on to the next one, which is going to be the Friedman ASC 12, which is the bigger version of the Friedman cabs, and this thing's a monster. Okay, a few quick things I noticed with the Friedman ASC 12 is it has tons of punch and resonance, and it represents the guitar tone exactly how it should. There's a lot of good top end there so that all of the pick attack and all of the articulation comes through with all the riffs that I'm playing, and it's going to cut through a mix really nice. It's very balanced, so it gives me all the frequencies that I want, and it's very honest, so it gives me everything that I need to dial in my guitar tone properly. Does it give me the amp in the room feel? Absolutely. When I put this thing on the floor in my living room and I crank it, it shakes the house. It's got tons of resonance and punch, and I could still hear all of the top end of the guitar as well. There's no frequencies that are overwhelming other ones. It's very balanced, and it's flat, and it's full range. A lot of it's because of the way it's built, the components that they chose, the way they mounted everything, and the fact that it's made for guitar. It's not made to represent a full band mix. Okay, so now it's time for our final contender, which is the Behringer Eurolive B215. Let's see how this one pans out. Okay, so that was the Behringer Eurolive 215. Now, that was a 15-inch, which I expected to have lots of thump and fullness. It did have some punch, but the resonance wasn't there. It did not resonate like the Friedman cabs did. Even the Friedman ASC 10 had more resonance and punch than the Behringer 15-inch did. So will the Behringer at least give you the amp in the room feel? No. Because if it did, I would say its best chance would be giving you a dull amp in the room feel, which still isn't what you want, because you're sacrificing that nice top end and that cut and the pick attack and all that articulation so that you can have a little more thump because it's a 15-inch cab. The problem is, once again, it's a plastic cab and it's made for an entire band. And the way that it projects sound isn't for guitar only. It's for guitar and everything else. All right, so now let's hear the difference between all of these cabs when I do a direct comparison. Well, as you saw and heard, there is a very big difference between the Baltic Birch enclosed products and the poly enclosed products. And I can assure you that when I'm playing through either one of my Friedman cabs, whether it's the ASC 10 or the ASC 12, I am getting the amp in the room experience. It sounds like an amp and it feels like an amp. There's plenty of punch and resonance coming from these cabinets, and they sound fantastic. So if you're looking for a lightweight version, go with the ASC 10. You're still going to get tons of punch and resonance and transparency out of that product, and it's only 33 pounds. But if you don't mind carrying around a little extra weight and you want a really full, bombastic sound that's still very transparent, I would go for the ASC 12. That thing is a beast. They're both 500 watts, and it's Class D power, and they sound fantastic. So once again, if you're looking for amp in the room feel, then buy a cab that's made for guitar. Don't buy a plastic wedge that's made to monitor a band mix. It's not going to give it to you. Well, I hope you liked this video and got something out of this. If you did, please give me a like. I would really appreciate that very much. Feel free to leave a comment. I always read my comments and respond to every one of them, and I look forward to seeing those. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and smash the bell so that you can be notified whenever I come out with new episodes. Well, I have a lot of great stuff coming up, and I'll see you on the next episode.